HLC did put out a video. However, it's not his normal videos that we watch on stream. HLC has a series called US versus the World, where basically he, with his knowledge of military armaments capabilities, technologies, things like that, he will basically postulate what it would be like if the US actually went full-blown scale war against another country in modern day. Analyzing like basically weapon complements, troop complements, capabilities, things like that. Well, he put out a new one very recently, but this one is unlike other US verses that he's put out. Because this one is the US versus an Imperial Star Destroyer. Oh, yes. He literally did US versus the World Imperial Star Destroyer. So this has my interest, and I want to watch it because I am intrigued what HLC's take would be on if an Imperial Star Destroyer suddenly entered into Earth's atmosphere. So let's see what he has to say about it.
Good morning. He won't even let me get through it. He won't even let me get through the intro. Stop. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Habitual Linecrosser. And today, on this next exciting episode of USA versus the World. Today, we are fighting against an Imperial Star Destroyer. No, Finn, we can't do that music. We can't do Disney will sue us. They'll sue us into oblivion. I know what music you wanted to do. I wanted to do it too, but oh my God, Disney will just sue the pants off of me. I would like to first apologize. It's been several days, or actually months, since I've done one of these. I've been so incredibly busy, and I was like, you know what? I'll do one that's kind of a spin-off. This would be kind of fun. I just learned more about Star Wars and Imperial Star Destroyers and Imperial technology than I ever wanted to know. I read, Did you know there's a Wikipedia? That's
Yes, I'm very aware of the Wikipedia. So this is his source, is Wikipedia. Oh boy. He went down the fucking rabbit hole then if he went onto Wikipedia for this info. Oh crap.
Wikipedia? That's a real thing. It's all Star Wars stuff, and they have like a toggle at the top for like legend or canon. Like it, oh my God, it's insane. But before we get too far into that, a word from today's video sponsor. The sponsor for today's video is Ammo Squared. Gone are the days where you have to have those difficult conversations with the missus because ammo is very much feast or famine. How much did you spend on ammo? About $17,000. Where are your shoes? They got those too. Heck, when I was in Oklahoma, I had to wait 4 months for $45.70, and then I bought all of it. $65 for 20 rounds, but worth it. But with Ammo Squared, I don't worry about that. As a customer of theirs, you say how much you want to pay per week. You pick the calibers that you are looking for, and they tell you how much of each caliber you can accrue, I think that's the right word, a week, and they'll stack it up for you. And you can either ship it at your own discretion or ship it when it triggers a certain threshold, like let's say $250, which is free shipping, and then they will just go bam and send it to your door. They have so many different types of ammunition, as well as different weights within those calibers, target rounds, hunting rounds, everything you could potentially look for. There's no contracts, there's no commitment. You can toggle it on, off, increase your budget, decrease your budget, anything you want to at your
Sounds
leisure.
like a good thing.
One of the more common questions you might hear is, well, what if I can only get part of a round? Like if my allocated money amount is only worth 7.4 rounds per week. Well, that 0.4 is a lot like owning part of a stock, and it will roll over into the next month. 0.4 plus 0.4 equals 0.8 plus, I don't math in public. Basically what I'm saying is you still get the ammo. It's just you order it in partial segments.
You can never have
and
enough
you're buying
ammo.
by the individual
True
round,
story.
so
True
you're saving
story.
instead of the big box. So yes, you can be stacking ammo for less than the costs of some of the subscription services out there. And now they all have ads. You know what doesn't have ads? Freedom Seats! That's why I trust Ammo Squared. Back to the show. And we are back. Did you enjoy that? Did it tickle your pickle? So we're going to break this down a lot like I do with normal countries. However, there are some admin notes at the end that I kind of have to go over, things that I had to learn about just so I could see if there even was a way to fight an Imperial Star Destroyer, which for this we're doing I don't know if it's Class 1 or Class I. That part I wasn't able to figure out, but I'm pretty sure it's Class 1 Imperial Star Destroyer. This is shortly after the Empire stood up and the Republic was gone. So in the Class whatever Imperial Star Destroyer, as for personnel, it has 37,000 crew members. Now this is varying between officers, enlisted, weapons guys, all sorts of different things, targeting officers, etc. And then you have a complement of usually around 1 legion, 9,700 stormtroopers, giving you a grand total of 46,700 individuals on board.
And none of them can shoot. That is a key distinction there. None of them know how to fucking shoot.
This ship. That's a lot of people until you realize the size of this ship. It's 40 million tons. There's not an extra zero in there, a couple zeros in there. It's 40 million tons. Let me put this in perspective for you. The largest aircraft carrier in existence, the Gerald Ford, the Ford class carrier that the United States has, like one of the few super carriers in the world, almost all of which are ours, has a displacement around 100,000 tons. So it's that times, oh, I don't do math in public, 400? So anyways, the United States has, we've gone through all these numbers. I'll just briefly go over them again with you. I do verify them every once in a while. It has roughly 1 million people in the United States Army, 177,200 in the Marines active, and then 32,400 in reserve. And it has, as for the United States Navy, 978. As for the Air Force, they have 321,848. I find it really interesting that some of these branches have like exact numbers. Like they're counting Steve, whoever Steve is, they're counting that guy too. It's 68,927 reserve and 105,104 Air National Guard. Weekend Warriors, America's newest military service, which is going to get their combat. What does the Air Force, or excuse me, Space Force get for combat? Like in the Army, we get a combat action badge or combat infantryman's badge or combat medical badge. The Marines, they get their combat ribbon. The Navy, I don't know, they get, I'm desperately trying not to make a gay joke right now. They get something.
Make the joke.
The Space Force, maybe they get the little things on their neck like Star Trek. I don't know what they get. But anyways, we have around 4,200 enlisted and 4,300 officers. Those are our Guardians. Now, as for the Coast Guard, who, again, in this conflict is not going to be really of any substantial use. I don't know why I wrote that way. 43,000 active, 8,000 reservists, and 30,000 auxiliaryists, bringing our grand total of 2,098,436 personnel. Moving on to aircraft. Guys, I probably stared at this category longer than I should have, because the answer is relatively simple, because I simplified it. Okay. There's 72 TIE fighters on average on board an Imperial Star Destroyer. But what you gotta understand is not all Star Destroyers are the same. You have different classes of them, which, yes, we have different classes of ships, but then sometimes a captain just gets a fucking wild hair up his ass and is like, I want this on my ship. I want fucking photon torpedoes. I want this. I want that. Like, it's so hard. So I'm...
HLC, wrong franchise. Star Destroyers don't have photon torpedoes. That's Star Trek, not Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars has proton torpedoes, not photon torpedoes. Yeah, Star Trek, yes. Star Trek has photon torpedoes. Star Wars has proton torpedoes.
Just trying to do a run-of-the-mill, everyday Star Destroyer. So 72 TIE fighters. This includes 12 bombers, and then you have a couple of like starfighters, and then if you get into later generations, they actually have Star Defenders, which are like the most maneuverable in the universe. I just literally went with TIE.
Wait. Am I crazy, or did he throw in is he calling the Star Defenders, and that's a Corellian cruiser? Am I nuts? This looks like a Corellian cruiser to me. Yeah, that's what I thought. Or I said Corellian. Yeah, Mon Calamari cruiser. Yeah. And this last one was not this one before it.
A couple of like starfighters.
This is the interceptor. This is the TIE interceptor right here that he's talking about. That's exactly what that is.
If you get into later generations, they actually have Star Defenders, which are like the most maneuverable.
That's an MC-80 Star Defender. Why does it look like a Mon Calamari cruiser? It looks almost identical to what?
In the universe. I just literally went with TIE fighters, okay?
Oh, he is.
Now, as for aircraft, they also have a lot of transport ships, but I put those further down into like ships, like boats. But they have 5
there's the TIE Defender too.
XG-1 Star Wings, okay? So these are very similar to the tri-wing ones, the tri-wing transport you always see like Vader, hanging out on, that has like the wings that fold up, and then 2 of them point at the bottom, 1 point at the top.
Oh, MC is Mon Calamari.
These are designed, they're assault vessels. Like they're designed to fight, okay? The U.S., when it comes to aircraft, I'll briefly go over these because it's been a while since I did this. 281 A-10s, 31 AC-130s, 45 B-1s, 20 B-2s, 76 B-52s, 4, according to the wiki, F-117s that are still in service, 540 F-18 Hornets and Super Hornets, 450 F-15 Eagles, I don't know about like the EX and all that stuff that we're upgrading to. I just said F-15s. F-16, we have 1,000 of those. 183, sometimes that number varies up to 190, but like combat ready, best I can get is 183 F-22s, 550 F-35s. I probably got to update that number. I guarantee it's gone up because that number's been just steadily climbing. 87 AV-8B Harriers, which are being decommissioned in 2027.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm surprised. I'm surprised the Harriers were still considered in service. Like, I don't think that they've used Harriers in years. Honestly, kind of the same thing with the Falcon, with the Fighting Falcons. Like, I can't think of a time that the F-16s have been in standard use. Like, the 16s got replaced by the 15s a while ago, and the F-18s. Like, the only time I've seen F-16s in use is I've heard of in, like, fucking air shows, or they're selling them to allies overseas that need to get birds near or something. Harriers are in reserves? Okay. All right, I'll take your word for that. It's like, I have not seen Harriers in action, even in air shows, in a long time.
130 P-8 Poseidons,
Air Girls,
as
you have
well
the
as
16s?
47 Little Birds, 800 AH-64s, 189 AH-1Zs, 508 MH-60 Seahawks, bringing our grand total, these are combat aircraft, to 4,941. Although I think our F-15 fleet went down by 4. So I should probably update that. Iran got lucky. Lucky little bastards. Yeah. All right, now when it comes to ships, okay, now this is where I put a lot of the transport vessels. I also had to learn about these transport vessels. Shout out to Fen, who's probably going to have to Google these things and find them, because
I think the kid will get an intercept in this scenario and finally get rid of his war boner.
If we're lucky.
You never see in the Star Wars movies. You might see them maybe in...
Wait, what?
Who's probably going to have to Google these things and find them, because some of them you never see in the Star Wars movies. You might see them maybe in the Clone Wars. You might see some of them in there. I haven't seen all the Clone Wars.
A lot of the stuff that he's probably going to be talking about is in the EU canon. Like the real EU canon that you're seeing in the comic books, or that we're seeing in the novels. That's where, like, what all the shits that we see in the Star Wars movies is probably about a fraction of the ships that are in Star Wars. Because especially in the novels, they go into detail about the myriad of ships that are out there, particularly like combat ships. Yeah, so like this is all, I'm assuming he's going to be referring all to, I don't call it the Legends canon, like the real Star Wars, okay? Let's be nice and sparkling fucking clear here. Star Wars, film Star Wars ended at Return of the Jedi. And then everything that came after that is all in the comics and the books. The new trilogy never existed. The new books never existed. The new shows never existed. Now, it's like the movies ended at Jedi, and then the books took over, and that's the actual canon.
And there's a lot of canon out there. There's a lot of books. The rabbit hole is so much deeper than I thought, guys. 8 Lambda, it might be Lambda, but it's spelled Lambda. So class shuttles.
Lambda.
So those are the ones you always see Vader on, the 3-wing ones. Those are the ones you always see him, Vadering around on. Not when he's fighting, but like when he's going to just, You think he force chokes himself? I know that joke is overplayed. 15 Delta-class Stormtrooper transports. They have very strong forward shields, but a small complement of weapons. These things are actually designed to like tractor beam and like slam nose first into the side where they can drop troops. They also have like an ability to eject the troopers out of there just in case they're about to get destroyed. Like it's kind of cool. At least two. Sometimes they have more depending on what they're doing. Theta-class AT-AT transports. Each of these transports can transport 2 AT-ATs, which I put those down in where tanks are at because armored... Oh, what does AT-AT stand for? Fuck, I should have wrote that down.
All-terrain attack transport.
Armored transport. AT...
Is it armored? I thought it was all-terrain attack. No, he's probably right. All-terrain armored transport. He is probably right about that. I said attack, but it's probably armored.
AT, okay. You have 12 Sentinel-class landing craft, 1 Gamma-class assault shuttle, and a question mark for this one because I couldn't find an actual number. These are... I put them in here. It's a transport ship. It really, it has 4 forward guns. There's not really much else there, but it's the Theta-class T2C shuttle, and they're mostly just, like I said, for dignitaries, high-ranking people. I don't think I've ever seen them in any Star Wars movie. I don't think I've ever seen one. The U.S. rocking 1 Ford class and 10 Nimitz class aircraft carriers. So 11 super carriers. As for cruisers, we have 13 Ticonderoga class cruisers. For destroyers, we have 73. We actually probably have a few more of those. I got to double check that number. Arleigh Burke class destroyers, 3 Constellation class frigates. I think they're bringing the frigate back. There's 20 planned and 1 currently under construction. When it comes to littoral combat ships, which actually saw littoral combat recently, they were doing counter-mine operations. 8 Freedom class and 15 Independence class littoral combat ships. When it comes to subs, Ohio class, 18 of those. 14 are for ballistic missile, like our Trident 2, tried and true, and then 4 of them are strapped for cruise missiles. They are the largest sub the U.S. has ever made and the 3rd largest attack sub that has ever existed. We have 29 Los Angeles class submarines, which are nuclear fast attack, which for this will do absolutely dick. With a Seawolf class, we have 3 of those. Very expensive, really, really good, but can't do literally fucking anything outside of water. And then 19 Virginia class, which is the newest and greatest thing that we have. Again, pretty much useless in this, bringing our grand total to 192. We also have, just in case they want to, they want to tally ho some lads. We also have the classic frigate, the USS Constitution. Can you imagine that? Stormtroopers getting bodied by cannonballs, which kind of plays into what we're going to be doing here, but
hell yes, I'd love to see that.
When it comes to tanks, your average Imperial Star Destroyer carries 20 AT-ATs, 30 AT-STs. Those are the 2-legged ones. And 1, I didn't even know this, they carry a prefabricated base that they can just drop in case they need to occupy an area. That's a real thing.
Interesting.
That's wild to me. When it comes to air defense, I feel like I've seen a movie or something that shows like they can shoot down like...
This right here, you know what this makes... This makes me think of fucking Command and Conquer. Like, where you literally just drop your manufacturing base, and then you build out from that. Like, the Empire's literally playing fucking Command and Conquer.
Stuff coming at them. And I guess you could consider some of the onboard guns, like air defense, because they do shoot down, like, X-Wings and shit. But I didn't count that. I was looking more for, like, ballistic missile defense. They don't have anything like that I was able to find. I swear I've seen it before, but I was unable to find anything like that.
They just got turbo lasers.
They just rely heavily on their shields, their armor plating. 40 million tons. 40 million tons. The U.S. uses Patriot, THAAD, Aegis, LPWS, M-SHORAD, also known as the Sergeant Stout, and GMD, ground-based mid-course defense. Our air defense really does kind of play in our factor here. Okay, when it comes to artillery, this is a hard one too, because I had to learn about energy weapons and what they bring to the battlefield and like how they work and what fires at what. And There's so many conflicting. Look, I know I'm gonna piss off some Star Wars geeks with this one. Okay, like I know in general, like I'm trying, I'm doing the best I can, but the lore behind this and the.
Well, I think he's going on the assumption that the Star Destroyer is not going to be in orbit. I think he may go on the assumption that the Star Destroyer may actually lower down into Atmo and make it a viable target and may make it a viable target for air defense or for attack aircraft, because there is case history in Star Wars where Star Destroyers will actually drop down into a planet's atmosphere and will not remain in orbit. So it's possible that he can Star Destroyer even lower down in Atmo. Yes, it can. Absolutely, yeah. Star Destroyer does have anti-grav engines that will allow it to lower down into Atmo. It is possible. Typically, they don't, but they can. So, given that, typically when we've seen it, they typically don't, because usually the forces that they're going up against, they can take their time in sending down like ground troops, and so ground troops and ground vehicles, and so they can stay of orbit, and like they won't need to necessarily drop down the armaments and the troops all that quickly, because they're going against a far inferior force. Whereas you've got the U.S. military, and they're, if they're rocking and rolling against their ground troops, they may want to he may have it so like they'll drop down into Atmo so that they can do faster deployment and recovery, perhaps. Maybe that's where he'll go, but I don't know. Maybe he's going to keep it in orbit, in which case, throw a couple fucking ICBMs at the son of a bitch.
Data is far deeper than I was previously.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for the dono. Thank you very much. Thank you. Your book's worth getting, and if so, how can I find them? I can read anything as long as it's well written. I mean, I like my books. The people the strays that have bought my books have said they've enjoyed them. You can find them in the About section of my, either through the link that Atanashi just threw on screen, or in the About section of my stream. There's also a link to all 13 of my books there.
Expecting, okay? But an Imperial Star Destroyer, on average, carries 60 XX9, that's what it was classified as, heavy turbo blaster batteries. They are not used for ground attack. They're primarily used for defense against incoming enemy ships, okay? They have 60 NK7 ion cannons, just sprinkled salt bathed throughout the entire fucking ship. But those are non-kinetic. They're really non-damaging. They're strictly used to like take down shields and render ships inoperable, like take out their electronic systems. So the ion cannons, that's their primary focus, okay? They have 6, now the big guns that they have, you really see from the Imperial Star Destroyers, they have 6 dual heavy turbo laser blaster turrets. Try saying that 5 times fast. And just to put it in perspective, how big these guns are. I hope I did this math correctly, because I checked it twice. The U.S., when it comes to our artillery, our biggest that we have is 155 millimeters. That's pretty damn big. That's a pretty damn big bullet, right? Flying through the air, blowing stuff up. These are 5,000 millimeters, 50 meters in diameter.
Jesus.
No, that's not a typo. I double checked it, okay? 50 fuck... You could park your average American combat aircraft vertically inside that barrel and not touch the top of it. That's fucking insane. 50 meters. But also the amount of firepower these things are throwing is unlike anything that we really have dealt with previously. It's insane, the amount of firepower that Imperial Star Destroyers have. Like, at first I was reading some of this stuff and I was like, oh man, we could do this. No. It's not going to go the way we think, but I do have a plan. And leave everything to rednecks. Rednecks will get us through, okay? Trust me. 2 dual heavy ion cannons. Couldn't get the diameter of those. I was like, are they as big? I don't know. Couldn't figure that out. Now, the U.S. has 500 M109A6 Paladins, 231 109 M109A7s, 417 M119ers. The 119ers, 105 millimeters, 578 M777s, those are 155s, 188 M270 MLRS, and 270 M142 HIMARS. And I just, for little shits and gigs, I put in the 81 and 120 millimeter mortar system from Cardum, giving us 2,190 pieces of artillery. Now we get to the war plan.
Thank you, Gillis.
The easiest way to break down this war plan...
Wait, what did he say? I talked over him there. What did he say?
...of artillery. Now we get to the war plan. The easiest way to break down this war plan is, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of shit that they have that is gonna fuck us up. Okay, I call a spade, right? But then there's some shit that we have that is gonna just ruin their day. Stay with me. And we're gonna start with some of the admin notes here, okay? Standard rounds, I just checked this. Even though it looks like it's made of plastic in the movies, apparently standard projectile throwers really don't stand a fucking snowball's chance in hell of penetrating a stormtrooper's body armor. I know, but it's kind of smart the way they do.
Wait, hold up. Maybe he's getting different information than I've seen. I thought that the whole thing with stormtrooper armor is that it wasn't all that bullet resistant. It was supposed to be blaster resistant. But I thought the whole thing was supposed to be blaster resistant. Slug throwers was able to be eaten. I thought it was the reverse, that because slug throwers were like never used, that the stormtrooper armor had something of a vulnerability to slug throwers because all the technology was focused on making them blaster proof. I thought. No, it's projectile resistant, not energy resistant. Okay, I thought it was the reverse.
They didn't focus at all on marksmanship, which we'll play into here in a minute, but they focused everything on body armor, so they can just take a licking and keep on ticking. They can just get punched over and over. Not how hard you can hit. I'm sorry. I don't know if that man had a stroke. He could probably kill me. Anyways, so they can't penetrate. However, I did find some nerds arguing on the internet that says 50 cal probably could get through.
Yes.
And
that's where I was gonna go. You fucking get you get a sniper on a Barrett, he'll put a fucking round through about 3 of their heads stacked back to back. The 50, it'll probably stop small arms fire. It ain't stopping a 50. A 50's gonna cut right through that like a hot knife through butter.
I felt the pride of John Moses Browning in my heart when I read that. Like, can you imagine this man made one of the most iconic weapons? I'm talking about the Browning M2 heavy barrel 50 caliber machine gun. The most perfect weapon in existence. If you remove all classifications, like, was not as mobile. Don't need to be mobile. I can strap it to a truck and chase you through your house with it. That's not a big deal. But as I was reading that, and I found out that like 50 cal is still gonna get the job done. Doesn't matter. Nazis, Empire Japan, fucking Koreans, Chinese, Russians. It doesn't matter who it is. John Moses Browning doesn't give a shit. He just wants to build a great weapon. Thank you, Mr. Browning, wherever you're at in this world. But it also says that stormtroopers, I specifically asked this question. So are they with their they call it power armor. Some places call it power armor. And like my brain goes to like Mjolnir armor from Halo or
Starship Troopers.
The power armor that the Space Marines wear. I don't know what classification it is, but like this to me doesn't, I don't know. It didn't look like power armor to me when I seen it in the movies. They are susceptible to blasts and pressure waves. And that's good to know for a menagerie of reasons. Second,
he said that a couple of like nerds were arguing about it on the internet. I guess they classified it as power armor. Why they classified it as power armor? I've only heard it described as stormtrooper armor. That's it. That's the only descriptor I've ever heard for it.
Note: TIE fighters have no shields. In this scenario, TIE fighters have no shields, okay? Because when they first came out, their thought process was like swarm attacks. We don't need them to be resilient. We need them to just have be cheap and be able to mass produce them. They gave them to really inexperienced pilots because they were considered disposable. Now, I have read in other places that they have 2 different shields, energy shields and particle shields will be able to block projectiles and missiles, but for this scenario, they don't. I had to give us a handicap, okay? I had to give us something. It really depends on the variant, and as you continue to move through the verse, different variants have different levels of technology. Like when you get towards like the First Order, they actually have 2-seater TIE fighters. But it's also important to note in this scenario, TIE fighters have a maximum speed in the atmosphere of 1,200 kilometers an hour. Are you a free person? Don't worry. I already did the math for you. That is 745 miles per hour. Now, that number might be like, well, that's still pretty quick. Mach 1, the speed of sound is 767 miles per hour. TIE fighters can't break the sound barrier. At least in our atmosphere, on our planet, they can't break.
And that was the whole point, is that because one thing to remember, all of their aircraft are not designed for atmospheric combat. That's the thing. All of their quote unquote aircraft are designed for space combat, not air combat. And TIE fighters especially are not made to be aerodynamic to be able to cut through the atmosphere like planes can. Hence why you've got the two giant fucking sails on the sides of them. They're not aerodynamic. They're going to be limited to, atmospheric wind resistances. But they don't have to worry about that in space, and that's predominantly what they did. But the TIE fighters worried about the space combat, the ground troops worried about the atmospheric combat. That's how the
Looks
Empire
like the kid
works.
is gonna eat.
Yes, kid's gonna eat good on this one.
The sound barrier. Meanwhile, the F-22 public available information is it does Mach 2.2. We're going to use that to our advantage, okay? But TIE fighters are incredibly maneuverable, and even with some of our most maneuverable aircraft, like the F-16, we couldn't hope and pray to be able to maneuver like those TIE fighters. However, they do still have this gelatinous mass of human matter inside of them, which is susceptible to G-force. And if you hit them hard enough with something, that person will turn to goo and they will crash. So again, important for the mission ahead. It's also important to note that they are powered with ion engines, which some sources say yes, some sources say no, but ion engines are potentially cold, and that being said, would negate the capabilities of certain thermal guided munitions that the US uses. All's fair, okay? Next admin note, they have a huge radar cross section. I was like, why are the TIE fighters like that? Those are solar panels on the sides that power the ion engines inside. Now, later models had twin generators, which one would power the shields, one would power the engines, and the solar panels were really just for like environmentals. I don't know. But you know what that means? They have a huge radar cross section. I might venture to say,
yeah,
and this is bold, they might have a bigger radar cross section than the Su-57. I know. The Su-57 from Russia, it pretty much comes up on radar. Is that a Goodyear blimp? No, that's Russian stealth technology. It's just awful. Russia, it's bad and you should feel bad. Look, if you made a good plane, I would tell you it's a good plane. You always like just dunking on Russia and everybody else because you think America's superior? No, I read the data and decide America's superior.
I wonder if future tech prevents radar lock. Here's the thing. It might not, because in Star Wars, they don't function off of radar, so why would they put in a countermeasure to it? It's kind of like how, if it's a technology that they never encounter, then they're not going to think about a countermeasure for it. Kind of like with the slug throws, how nobody. It's like, okay, I don't know if you guys ever heard, but the big, you know what the biggest weakness for a Jedi is when facing against facing against an armed opponent. You know what the Jedi's biggest weakness is? Someone with a slug thrower, and in specific shotgun. That's what the Mandalorians used in ancient days to drop Jedi. Because number one, the Jedi can't necessarily block all the pellets, but number two, if they do, and even if they block, you could take down a Jedi with a 45. You legit, if you rolled off with your good old 1911 and just started mag dumping with the 1911, you take out a Jedi. Why? Because while the Jedi could technically move his or her lightsaber to block the round, it won't deflect it like a blaster. It's not plasma on plasma to deflect it. It's a solid lead slug. So when it hits the lightsaber, it melts. It doesn't deflect, it melts and turns into superheated liquid metal, which then continues on its trajectory around or through the lightsaber blade and into the Jedi. So yeah, a slug thrower can literally any slug thrower from Earth, any gun from this could easily take down a Jedi when they try to go and block it with a lightsaber.
Fuck! If you read as much as I did, you'd fucking figure it out too. But they have hypersonics. Oh god, if I
the hypersonic.
You know who else thinks that they have hypersonics? The Empire. They're gonna fucking find out real quick. They don't think they have hypersonics. They don't. They know that it's stupid to have a hypersonic anything. It's dumb. They do have jump drives, though. Then they can, away. Kind of hard to catch with that. Yeah. Anyways, I do also want to let you guys know, if you're thinking what I was thinking in the beginning of this, and there's a reason why I went against it, and I'm just going to give it to you as an admin note, nuclear weapons will do fuck all against an Imperial Star Destroyer. Really? Like, well, how? How do they not do anything? Stay with me here. In the Star Wars universe, Imperial Star Destroyers are designed to go toe-to-toe, like fucking knockdown, drag-out battles, like American battleships back in the day, right? With things that often have yields of megatons and gigatons. Now, gigaton might sound like a silly word, probably because you haven't heard it before, because the largest nuclear weapon ever made on Earth, Tsar Bomba, it was really stupid. It was really no point to do it. They strapped it to the outside of a Tu-95 bomber, dropped it, and Russia's like, oh, we have nuclear weapons. It's so big. Yeah, you stole the technology from us because you're fucking losers. I really might not like Russia. That might be a thing.
You think?
I mean, I'm stating facts, but still. The largest bomb ever dropped, nuclear weapon, was Tsar Bomba, and it was 50 megatons. A gigaton is 1,000 megatons. Just like a megaton is 1,000 kilotons. Just to put that in perspective, okay? Also, and you might think like, well, what about the radiation from it? I'm glad you asked, because I had a similar idea. A large portion of the ship itself, aside from being armor-plated, I mean, it's armored as fuck on top.
I mean, well, it's a spaceship. It's literally a spaceship. My guess is that armor is designed specifically to counteract, amongst other things, radiation. Because it predominantly exists in space, and you're going to get far more solar radiation from traversing in space than you will from a nuke. So it is undoubtedly got a fuck ton of shielding where radiation is literally not a concern whatsoever.
Of having shields, right, is made out of a material called neutronium, which has phenomenal heat dissipation, radiation shielding, and is excessively dense. Like, from what I was reading, it's like 10 to 20 times more dense than like tungsten or depleted uranium, which are like the densest and hardest materials on Earth. So just letting you have that one, okay? The proton torpedo that Luke Skywalker fired from the X-Wing to destroy the, oh my God, what the fuck? The Death Star. I couldn't think of the name of the ship. It's the Death Star.
Because it's a station.
When he destroyed the Death Star, proton torpedo was in the megaton yield range. And we look at that like that was, I mean, it was a bomb, but it was kind of a small bomb, right? Megaton range. All right. I'm glad that we have all that.
I was unaware of that. That proton torpedoes have a megaton's worth of field. I didn't think that they were that explosive. Fuck.
I do like to say that there's a possibility America could win this, but it's based off of a couple of things. I think realistically, it's more or less going to be a battle of attrition, and here's why. So aerial bombardment, they're going to just hit everything they can with those big-ass guns, and realistically, there's nothing we can do to stop them. They're not going to destroy our entire planet, but there's nothing we can do. No amount of bunker, no amount of strong hard point, nothing we can do will stop that orbital bombardment. And they're going to hit all of our military structures as fast as they possibly can. Now the drop ships start coming in. And then stormtroopers are running out. Can't shoot for shit, but they're really hard to kill, according to Star Wars. Although every video I've ever seen, stormtroopers seem pretty easy to kill. Like, just being honest with you. They begin to bring troops. What about all our military tech? What about all this? Oh, don't worry. I even wrote it down in fucking parentheses. We're going Ewok Corps. Vietnam style. Because, yes, they are hard to shoot because they have that armor. But you know what they're not hard to do? Stab in the gaps of their armor with knives and spears. And rednecks will get us
guerrilla warfare time, baby.
I assure you. And you're like, well, what if they shoot you? They shoot like shit. Why do you think the Ewoks actually stood a chance against them? They shoot like hot ass. They can't shoot anything. So you just jump out of a tree and stab a guy who decided to wear white armor in the middle of fucking Pennsylvania, Arkansas. Good job there, buddy. They're at a serious disadvantage there. I'm telling you, some hillbilly in real tree camo sitting up in a deer stand with broadhead arrows is going to give them a real rough day. Okay? So
Oh, yeah.
that would be to our benefit. Realistically, I think at that point in time, that's when we're going to get into the battle of attrition. You might wonder what my hand is down over here doing. It's petting a Fritz. So USMC and Army marksmanship really start to count, because as soon as we start taking these guys out, homie, if it's working, we're going to use your guns. It's only a matter of time before some redneck picks up a laser rifle and goes, let's see if this works, and then just starts murking stormtroopers.
Yes.
So that's a real thing that's going to happen, okay? Any surviving air...
Not only that, but then also maybe, like, if they get down, some downed shuttlecraft, get some downed, get some downed TIE fighters that are not actually destroyed. They're literally going to cannibalize the fuck out of the enemy's weapon systems if they're easily proving more efficient than their own. It's not only that, but the minute they start actually being able to start getting their hands on enemy tech, freaking DARPA is going to be working on reverse engineering the fuck out of those at light speed to try and start getting us our own shit. Now, granted, the amount of time it's going to take for them to reverse engineer would probably last a lot longer than the battle itself. But rednecks, yeah, they'll just grab the carbines and just start opening up, or they'll grab the landed transport vessels and say, "How does this thing work?" Boom, and just start going to town on that. But there is one other thing that we're almost at the conclusion. There's one other thing that HLC is not bringing up here that I'm going to wait to see if he goes into.
Defense systems are going to make realistically short work of the TIE fighters. Now, yes, they can hit all of our military...
What do you say?
That's a real thing that's going to happen, okay? Any surviving air defense systems are going to make realistically short work of the TIE fighters. Now, yes, they can hit all of our military infrastructure, they can hit our bases, they can hit our airplanes, but after a certain amount of time, they're going to run out of shit to hit. And we have shit stashed everywhere. So if you can get some air power in the air, the amount of firepower that Uncle Sam brings, they're going to be using swarm attacks, but the amount of firepower that we bring to the fight, between just the 20mm Gatling guns that most of our combat aircraft use, with the exception of the F-35, which has a 25mm Gatling gun, we're going to be just chopping up these TIE fighters.
Yes.
AIM 120s, and if we can get a lock with an AIM 9, we'll do it. But am I boring you? Short work of the TIE fighters. I mean, realistically, even old school anti-aircraft guns, because from what I found, some of the models of TIE fighters carry torpedoes and warheads, but most of them don't, because they're considered disposable. So they have laser cannons, which are still line of sight, and a radar can pick you up far beyond line of sight. So you're going to have inbound missiles coming at you. Now, their maneuverability might be to their benefit there, but jury's still out. I don't know. Then we get down to the AT-ATs and AT-STs. And AT-STs, more often than not, don't have onboard shields. AT-ATs often do. However, they're energy shields. They are designed to stop...
Really? Wait. AT-ATs have shields? I didn't think AT-ATs had shields. I thought the whole thing with the AT-ATs is that they just had really thick armor. I never realized that they actually had a shield generator. Okay.
Lasers. They don't really have particle shields. I've read yes, I've also read no. So for this, I'm going with no. What I would recommend is, given that they're made out of some...
Well, that's why they trip them. But the line in the movie is that armor is too strong for blasters. They didn't say the shields are too strong. They said that armor is too strong for blasters. That's why I always thought they just had really thick armor. They have deflector shields and super thick armor. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The AT-ATs, yeah, they just have really good armor, not shields. So, a lot of inconsistencies. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds, yeah. I never thought that they had shields. I was always under the impression it was just really thick that standard blasters would not get through unless you actually get them into a weak point, like at the joint on the back of the head of the AT-AT.
No, so for this, I'm going with no. What I would recommend is, given that they're made out of some of the same material that the Imperial Star Destroyers are, probably not getting through that with just anything. But you can get through it if it's liquid. So I would probably have either Halo units or people rappelling from any high place, or even climbing, grappling hooks, anything to get on those, and then white phosphorus and look for a weak point. And then once you get inside, murk the crew. Because for some
There
reason,
you go.
the guys that they put in these massive things just love to open the doors and look for people. We've seen that in all the Star Wars movies. They like, oh, look. Although Luke did kind of chop it open with a lightsaber.
True.
Can you imagine us putting a lightsaber on the end of a rifle for some Marine who's 6'8" just so he can skewer stormtroopers? God,
Hell yes.
I feel like that should be lore. Someone should make that canon. That should be a thing. Now, when it comes to the destroyer itself, this poses an incredible problem. Now, we can probably murk everything that they send down after a certain amount of time. It won't be right away. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a battle of attrition. We're going to use our technology and our topography to our advantage until we can seize enough of theirs that we can use it against them. Because we, not only do we be building shit, we be stealing shit. Not as much as Russia and China, but we try. So we get all that. Now we're at the Imperial Star Destroyer. And they're just going to continue to bombard us with everything they got. Because energy weapons have circumstantially unlimited ammunition. There is a small...
See, the Star Wars weapons are not quote-unquote energy weapons. They're plasma. They're like plasma weapons. Yeah, they have a gas charge. Basically, they're all of the the handheld weapons, the ship weapons. They basically they work off of superheated plasma, and there is a mag. There is like a gas magazine. There's a limited charge. So you do have only so many shots before you have to replace the magazine essentially. But what the amount of shots you get in the magazine, is a lot. I think like a standard gas mag in a Stormtrooper's EE carbine is something like 500. I think you get like 500 shots in the standard Is it 3,000? Okay. I know it was like a disgusting amount. So you're getting a fuck ton of shots, but it does have a magazine. They do have magazine capacities.
But possible way to try and take the Imperial Star Destroyer. Now, this would take coordination and planning. If you look at some of the ways that Star Destroyers have been hit by like X-Wings, is the tactic they use is they'll do proton torpedoes, and they do the first volley because they each carry 4. So you get like 4 or 5 of these ships together, and they fire their first volley of 2. Each of them fire 2. Boom, boom.
Okay.
And what happens is you can overload a section of shields on the Star Destroyer, and then a couple seconds later, they fire their second volley of 2, and those ones make contact. Now, this by no means destroys the entire ship, but it is a way to punch a hole. Now, if the captain of the ship is smart, as soon as his shields start to go down, he'll rotate the ship, either roll it or turn it to get to another section of shields, so that way the next volley doesn't get through the shields and cause damage. Again, those torpedoes are in the megaton range. If we can seize a couple of those...
Well, and we must not forget, in Return of the Jedi, the way that they took down the Super Star Destroyer is you had a couple of X-Wings that did a close fly-in run. They took out the deflector shield they took out that large circular deflector shield generator, which was the bridge deflector shield. And then after they took out the bridge deflector shield, a single A-Wing basically did a kamikaze run and basically flew straight into the fucking bridge, and that took out the entire Super Star Destroyer. That wasn't a shield. Literally, after 2 X-Wings took out that, they literally, fuck, words are hard. There was a report from a junior officer on the bridge. As soon as that happened, they said, "Sir, they just took out our bridge deflector shield." And the response was, "Intensify the forward firepower. I don't want anything to get through." So apparently those are the deflector shield generators, those giant fucking balls that are above the bridge. That was a sensor dome. The A-Wing pilot got really lucky. Really? If you say so.
Especially the Delta-class transport ships that I went over earlier. Those ships are designed. Their sole purpose in life is to transport troops somewhere and then actually hook to a ship, blow it open with whatever it uses to land, and then be able to insert those troops into a ship so that you can seize the ship or take out the whole crew. That's what they're designed for. There's a small chance we could actually seize a couple of those. Now, they only carry 40 troopers each. If you got Marines to sit on each other's laps, let's go ahead and say 80. But 80 Marines with pretty good marksmanship, or 80 like SEALs or Delta operators or whoever with pretty good marksmanship with some enemy weapons, that might be a good fight to put on board that ship. But how are they going to get close? Now, they do have some heavy shields, but those heavy guns on that ship are going to murk them. They do have a weak point kind of in the lower back, like the lower aft of the ship, which if you have a good captain, he protects that using TIE fighters and TIE bombers and everything else like that. So, but what I would do is, while our nukes are useless to damage the ship, nuclear weapons still push out an electromagnetic pulse, and they make a big fireball. They make a big bright flash and a fireball. So for me, this sounds like a way to saturate their systems and overload their sensors so that they can't defend themselves. So what I would do is get a couple of those Delta-class combat ship or transport ships, and then as they're launching, use as many nukes as we possibly can on that ship to disrupt their systems. Just hit them. We have 5,178 nuclear weapons in the United States. It might take all of them, okay? But we need to overload that ship as much as we possibly can, so that way it can't see our boys incoming. And once they get on there, slaughter. Slaughter until you can't slaughter anymore. I'm talking like 40.
Well, he's also neglecting one other possibility of a means of attack, is not only do you send the boys on there, send a nuke. Send like a dirty bomb. Like you could have, like, if you're gonna send like one or two of these transports, like literally have a nuke in one of them, have the boys bring the nuke on board, and then basically nuke from the inside.
I have to apologize. Since I discovered you, I've always thought you always had a shitty mic. I'm really sorry. Ember T _
That's okay.
T.
That's okay. Most people do. It's fine. Yeah, they can go on board with like a backpack nuke, and like literally, because it's armored on the outside, it ain't so armored on the inside. So you basically get like a couple of SEALs, or you get a couple of Delta boys, or you get a couple of Marines with a backpack with one or two backpack nukes. You get them on board, get them to the engine room, hit the button, and fucking run. Boom! There you can take out the Star Destroyer, because those nukes on the interior will fuck up that Star Destroyer because they don't have the same level of armor on the inside.
World Eaters level of slaughter, okay? You need to go in there. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's not from our planet, it dies. Now, of course, you always have the possibility of having, you know, a Sith on there. I didn't factor that in for this, but that would be the only way we would be able to do anything. After a while, if we were unable to seize those Delta-class transport vessels and overload their shields, or let's say we just hit them as hard as we can and we weren't able to overload their systems and they saw our ships coming and murked those ships, we're dead in the water. It's only a matter of time before they just continue to bombard us so much that there's nothing we can do. I give this one 20% chance of U.S. success overall. If they send down any stormtroopers, we're going to murk those guys. We could take them pretty quickly. They're TIE fighters, short work. We have a fuck ton of munitions to be able to take out TIE fighters. But when it comes to the actual Imperial Star Destroyer itself, some things have to align very, very well for us to be able to take that thing down. We have to be able to get inside. And the only way I see of getting inside is using those transport vessels, because the blast doors on the outside of their hangars are the same material. We're not getting through those. And I doubt we're going to be able to get our hands on any proton torpedoes. So let me know what you guys think of this breakdown. I really enjoyed looking up all this stuff, and I learned a lot. I'm sure there's some deep lore Star Wars nerds who are going to make some corrections, which I am welcoming. Just do it in a way that I want to learn something new. Don't be like, oh, you're just a dumbass. That doesn't help anybody. I want to learn something new, man. Teach me something that I maybe didn't take into account here. If you'd like to support the channel, please go to habituallinecrosser.com. Go ahead and get yourself some merch, maybe buy me a beer. But as always, the cheapest and easiest way to support the channel is just watch my videos, and that's all I'll ever ask of you guys. And one of the things that I always say is don't do the enemy any fucking favors. I care about you guys. I love every single one of you. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Hang on a second.
Given how most Imperial officers are shown to be idiots, long as they don't bring Thrawn, we could win.
There was one other factor that he didn't bring into play that I'm a little bit surprised didn't come up at all. And that's like cyber divisions in military. Like in the intel communities, or like with the, with like the CIA or anything. He didn't bring up the possibility of, could Earth's hackers, could the US's like cyber divisions or hackers be able to get into the Star Destroyer systems, or like bring one along with those Marines that are getting on board to see if they can get into the system. I'd be curious, like, what the possibility of that is. You'd have to know their code base. It's all ones and zeros in the end. That's the thing. Computer systems are all still ones and zeros. And we've got some seriously autistic motherfuckers that can literally do binary. And maybe some of the best hackers would be able to get access to their systems. Who knows? I don't know. It's just I'm a little surprised that didn't like come up. Is either it's a possibility or a flat out dismissal. But that's like that's another segment that another section of logistics that would have been interesting to explore as well.